Welcome to the spot where the thoughts run high. No topic off limits, you heard. JR Buckle every single word. Politics to cars, that's the range. Culture shaping us exchange. Honesty's the game we play. Garage talk newsroom today. Unexpected turns, yeah, we swerve. ADHD, what you deserve. A little humor on the side. Open minds, open wide.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the ADHD podcast. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do some kind of, conspiracy theory type stuff. Now, I went over this briefly on my TikTok, but we're going to go a lot more in depth with it here. It's probably going to take about 15, 20 minutes, give or take a few minutes. But here we're going to look a little more into it than we could on TikTok. So I hope you're ready and I hope you enjoy. So today's podcast is going to be about NPCs. And, we're going to figure out if they're real or if it's just maybe us just overthinking things, as most human beings do. So this has been floating around the internet a lot lately. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe they're doing, some kind of NPC thing here on TikTok or what have you. So let's get to it, and I hope you enjoy it. So NPCs, as we know, stands for non-playable characters. Usually a video game term for like background characters who follow scripts, repeat the same lines, and they just really seem unalive. And lately, people have been using that word to describe actual people. And I'm sure you've probably seen it. Someone walking slowly in grocery stores, they get in your way. They take 12 minutes to read a soup can. Someone repeating catchphrases, anything. You'll be pulling out from a driveway and you'll look and there's nobody coming. And then you pull out and then boom, all of a sudden they're right there and they almost hit you. Basically like they just generated out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And then you get those people that you meet they just seem like they're just completely unaware of their surroundings. And, your friends will joke with you, like, yo, dude, I think that's an NPC. But see, here's the real question. Are there actually NPCs in real life? Or is this more about our own brains and how they work? So let's get into it. So first off, are NPCs real? The shorter answer is, well, they're probably not. I'm not saying they aren't, but they're probably more than likely not. There is absolutely no scientific evidence that some humans lack consciousness or inner lives or awareness. Now, there is a study that was done where some people don't have like an inner dialogue. Now, whether that falls into that or not, I do not know. So every person you pass, they have their own thoughts, their own memories, their own struggles, their own dreams, even if they don't show it. So I think people are just basically just too self-aware. So I guess first we have to kind of look at where does the NPC feeling come from? Why does it sometimes feel like that half the population is just running on like an autopilot? And I've heard a lot of people say this, that, I feel like I'm running on autopilot. So I'm pretty much did some research and I'm pretty sure it just comes down to psychology. So what is autopilot mode? Autopilot mode basically, let's just start with something called habitual behavior. Most of what humans do every day is kind of automatic, brushing your teeth, driving to work, standing in line, saying, hey, you good? I'm good. You? And I think we're so used to doing those tasks that your brain just kind of, puts it in the background, just to conserve energy. Because if you had to consciously think about every movement and every sentence that you said or everything you do, you would be exhausted before you even got to lunch. So I think instead your brain just builds routines from the outside. It just looks like you're a robot. Inside the person, it feels completely normal. Um, so to other people, you may seem like you're an NPC, but they're not NPCs. They're just conserving mental resources. And here's another factor. So I think it's kind of like cognitive overload. Um, so I think people are just overwhelmed with bills and their jobs, relationships, health. Their phones are buzzing nonstop. Modern life just puts massive pressures on your attention span. So, when someone looks zoned out or disconnected, it's often because their mind is just juggling like 10 to 15 things at once. I know I am sure as hell guilty of that. I could be thinking about doing the dishes and also wondering how I'm going to pay my electric bill and how I'm going to, what I'm going to say on my next podcast or what I'm going to do my next TikTok on. How am I going to make money on Facebook? Yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on. So I think that when we're talked to, we kind of shrink to minimal responses like, yep, okay, sounds good. Again, it looks scripted, but it's just, I guess, stress management. And I mean, humans also rely heavily on social scripts. These are like pre-programmed phrases that we kind of all share, which is, "Hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm living a dream. Crazy weather, huh? Another day, another dollar. I'm same shit, different toilet. Just the normal sayings that we all do. And these phrases or sayings kind of feel scripted, and these scripts make social interaction smoother and safer. So we're not stressed out about whatever else we're going to say. So this way, you don't have to invent new dialogue every time you meet someone. You just stick with the stuff that works. But when everything or everyone uses the same lines, it just creates that eerie feeling of repetition. Kind of like you're surrounded by copy and paste characters. That's not artificial people. That's just cultural programming. All right, so here's where it gets interesting. There's also a thing called the main character illusion. Um, it's when you experience life only from your perspective. So, you only hear your own thoughts, you feel your own emotions, you live inside your own head. Everyone else shows up as just like external behavior. Psychologists call this a subjective reality bias, where your inner world feels rich and vivid while others appear flat because you can't access their internal experience. So subconsciously, your brain thinks, I feel real. They just act like they're real. That creates an illusion that you're the main character of everyone else, and everyone else is just living in the background. But every person you pass feels exactly the same way about themselves. They also feel like they're the main protagonist of their own story. Um, so, what's the danger of the NPC mindset? Here's the part nobody really likes to talk about. Calling people NPCs might seem like harmless or funny, but it slowly chips away at empathy. And once you start to thinking of others as, background character, it becomes easier to dismiss their pain, their opinions, and their humanity. And I think that's happening a lot these days. We're kind of disconnecting ourselves from having empathy or sympathy for our fellow human being. And history shows us that dehumanizing language also comes first long before we do any real harm. And again, most people don't mean it that way, but it usually ends up that way, and ideas do matter. So, what do I think on this conspiracy theory that we're surrounded by NPCs? Personally, I don't think there's any NPCs. I think we're just humans living on routines, carrying out invisible stress. We're just following along with like social scripts, doing our best with very limited energy because, we're stressed the hell out. And that guy is staring into space at the gas station. He might be grieving. He could be exhausted. Who only knows what's going on in his day? Or maybe he's just replaying a conversation, that he had in his head. That woman that's slowly moving in this grocery store that seems to be blocking your path, she might be in pain. She could be distracted or overwhelmed. But meanwhile, you want to get where you're going because you're stressed out and you may be in pain, or you may be reliving or going over or replaying a conversation in your head with your boss or your girlfriend or your wife. So you're seeing their life as, one frame by frame of a full movie. And they're seeing you the same way you're seeing them. So, with closing, the next time someone feels like an NPC, just remember this. They're not background characters. They're just living a story that you can't read. So, I hope that helps. And I think we're going to have more questions than answers. You could always email me at jarbuckle@gmail.com. And, tell me your thoughts. We could have more of a discussion on it. Or if you would like to be in the show, that would be even better. So thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, share, rate, follow. And I'll catch up with you guys next time. And you all be safe.
Welcome to the spot where the thoughts run high. No topic off limits, you heard. J.R. Buckle, every single word. Politics to cars, that's the range. Culture shaping us exchange. Honesty's the game we play. Garage talk newsroom today. Unexpected turns, yeah, we swerve. ADHD, what you deserve. A little humor on the side. Open minds, open wide.